Hello everybody, welcome to the Nocturnal Gaming Network. My name is Xeriua, and today we are playing Assassin's Creed 3. So the last time, we took a boat, and we made our way to the New World from England, and there was something going on, and, you know, the Templars were here, and they tried to find us and kill us because we assassinated some guy at the opera. Okay. And there are people all over the place pushing one another and shoving and etc.
Damn sprigs. This accursed city will be the death of me.
You seem troubled, friend.
That's because I am. Greatly so, in fact.
What's happened?
I was robbed. The old Balkan file. Though I've managed to restore what's mine, I fear it's ruined.
You mean the book?
This is no ordinary book. It's an almanac. The first I ever wrote. Benjamin Franklin, pleased to meet you.
Hatham Kenway.
You must be new to Boston.
Why do you say that?
You're still possessed of virtue. To stop and help an old lout like myself. I don't mean to impose, but you seem a spry fellow. Should you happen to find my missing pages, I'll reward you.
Look, I'm not sure if I...
It's all right. If you have the time, hurrah. If not, no harm done. The thing is useless in its current state anyway. But should you somehow manage to restore it, you'll find me inside that general store over there.
Okay.
Well, that was interesting.
Yes, you meet some wonderful people inside of Boston. Alright. So, we should, I suppose, try to collect Mr. Benjamin Franklin's almanac pages at some point. I guess we're going to go over here, and we're going to talk with our friend.
What do you need, my friend?
See? He says he's our friend. I agree. We are friends. What do we need? We can buy ourselves a flintlock pistol. And we can buy ourselves a sword. So I'll do that. I'll buy the sword. And then we can go into firearms and buy ourselves a pistol. Cool. So we are armed and ready to go. So now we need to find Charles Lee and follow him on horseback, I might add, to the Green Dragon.
We ride for the Green Dragon Tavern. The proprietors are eccentric, but the rooms are spacious and they do not pry.
Have you been told why it is I come to Boston?
No, Master Birch said I should know only as much as you saw fit to share. He sent me a list of names and bade me ensure you could find them.
And have you had any luck with that?
Aye. William Johnson waits for us at the Green Dragon.
How well do you know him?
Not well, but he saw the order's mark and did not hesitate to come.
Prove yourself loyal to our cause. And you may yet know our plans as well.
I should like nothing more, sir.
Cool. He seems wonderful. What is the meaning of what? Is that all you have to say, man? Haha! A nice dragon. Wonderful. Although it doesn't really look green to me. Alright. Oh! Whoa, horsey. Calm down. I want to climb off. Thank you, horsey. Alright, so we will go into the Green Dragon.
You lying, cheating, no good son of a bitch.
Perhaps we've come at a bad time.
Oh, don't be foolish, dearies. Please, sit. Fancy something to eat? A drink, perhaps? Or is it a bed you require?
We've already let rooms here.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Masters Lee and Kenway, was it? I'll have your bags brought up.
Okay.
Do you require anything further?
Only privacy.
Okay. So have we basically just bought this whole floor here? Got some rooms. Some more rooms. Oh, she's sweeping the floor now. Okay. That's good. I'm glad this is a nice clean inn. We wouldn't want it to be, filthy. Who is this guy? Mr. Johnson?
Sir, William Johnson. A pleasure. A good lad, if a bit earnest. I'm told you're putting together an expedition.
We believe there's a precursor site in the region. I require your knowledge of the land and its people to find it.
Sadly, my research has been stolen. Without it, I'm of no use to you.
Then we'll find it. Do you have any leads?
My associate, Thomas Hickey, has been making the rounds. He's quite good at loosening tongues.
Well, tell me where I can find him. I'll see if I can't speed things up.
We've heard rumors of bandits operating from a compound southwest of here. You'll likely find him there.
Charles?
Sir,
We'd best be off.
of course.
All right. So we have a lot of database entries. I don't know if I want to read them. I kind of do. I like knowing them. Oh, it's bringing us right into this. Okay, let's. Whew. Locations. Oh dear. Okay. We have a lot of stuff already. Oh dear. Alright, let's look at the most recent. What do we have here? Charles Lee. Lewis Mills. Who's Lewis Mills? So Lewis Mills is the Templar guy who stopped us on the boat. Lewis Mills is a deckhand originally from where we British somewhat optimistically call sunny Brighton. He got his love of the sea from his father, who was also a sailor. He first took young Lewis to sea with him at age of 10, sailing from London to Boston on a vessel named the Windward. As he grew older, Mills kept working as a merchant marine, traveling the world and gaining a reputation as a reliable and level-headed sailor. He joined the crew of Providence in 1752, staying with the captain and crew through a variety of hardships. Though by 1755, he was thinking of moving on. Well, we kind of moved him on. So I guess we'll go through and at least read these recent ones here, because, no, we gotta read all of them, don't we? Boston. Alright. Well, how long is this bunch of grapes? Alright. So, this was one of the meeting places of the Sons of Liberty. Oh, okay. The people who wanted freedom. The attraction of this particular tavern may have been the library, which included many anti-British books, or it might have been its reputation as the finest punch house in Boston. Or it might even have been its location, which is right down the street from the old State House, where the legislature met and where the Boston Massacre occurred. Or it might have been Dart Nights. Like trivia nights, Just keeps them entertained. Well, I'd love to use the fact that the Patriots met in taverns to imply all kinds of things about them. I should point out that taverns were places to do business as well as drink, and that alcohol was viewed as more or less a cure for all ills. You're waiting for a punchline? But that's actually true. Though those are the kind of doctor's orders I crave. Yeah, I suppose there'll be some nice doctor orders here. So, Faneuil Hall. I have actually been here on one of my trips to Boston. Wonderful place. Don't let the French spelling confuse you. The name of this building is pronounced Faneuil, or Faneuil. Faneuil, okay? Getting it wrong is a good way to indicate you're not from around here. Yes, but it's also a great way of proving you're not French, which, in my experience, is a real boon. Yes, especially in this time with the anti-British and anti-French sentiment going along. So, also, if you want to pass as a local, you should take a good look at the weather vane. It's a Boston landmark. Legend has it that in the War of 1812, suspected spies were asked what was on top of Faneuil Hall. Only a true local would be able to say it was a grasshopper. Interesting. The building was named after Peter Faneuil, the local merchant who paid to build it. It was meant as a place for local farmers to sell their goods so their carts would stop crowding the streets, and also so you didn't have to walk near farmers. However, it's the meeting hall on the second floor which gives the building its nickname, the Cradle of Liberty. It's rather ostentatious, and I dare say American as a nickname, but it's not inaccurate. People met here to protest the Stamp Act. The first anti-tea tax meeting were also held here. Anti-British meetings occasionally drew crowds so large the building couldn't even hold them, at which point they all went to the Old South Meeting Hall. Okay? During the Siege of Boston, the meeting hall here was made over into a theater. Since plays of any kind were banned in Boston under ordinary circumstances, something I think should still be law. Actually, this is yet another example of the British loyalist sticking it to the rebels. Okay, and then we have the Green Dragon Tavern. This tavern is sometimes called the headquarters of the Revolution, though I imagine it is, when it is, they pronounce it headquarters of the Revolution. Because overthrowing the government in a pub is thirsty work. It was a popular place for people like Paul Revere and Samuel Adams to sit with their friends and plot. Up until 1754, the tavern was owned by William Douglas. When he died, his property was left to his daughter, Catherine Kerr, and his nephew, Cornelius Douglas. They divided their inheritance equally, and it seemed got along famously. The Freemasons bought the tavern in 1766 and renamed it the Freemasons' Arms, which didn't actually stick because the sign above the door was still a green dragon. Freemasons, the secret society everyone knows about. Let's get a pub where we can meet in complete secret and no one will ever know. Brilliant! What shall we call it? How about the Freemasons' Arms? Great. Legend has it that Paul Revere's ride was planned here, but that's unlikely. By 1774, Revere had been warned that the British were listening in on his meetings and had therefore stopped making super-secret plans in public where anyone could hear them. Very, very good idea. Someone tell the Masons. You know where to find them. All right. What do we need? The Theatre Royal. So this is the place where we did the stabby in the first episode, where we got the locket. You might hear this referred to as the Covent Garden, which it faces, or the Royal Opera House, which it later became. However, this is the original Theatre Royal building, opened in 1732, destroyed by fire in 1808. It was rebuilt, then destroyed by fire again in 1857. Sounds like they need some, sprinklers or something. And then almost completely renovated in the 1990s. They've installed a smoke detector this time. Okay, there we go. The fire suppression system is next, in like 2027. The original theater lineup was varied, containing ballets, operas, and even acrobatics. Many of Handel's operas opened here, right up until his death in 1759, when he mysteriously stopped writing them. Yeah. Okay. The building was mainly used for presenting plays, at least for the first 100 years of its history. The reason? It held the exclusive rights to perform spoken dramas in London. Really? Awarded by King Charles II. Yes, kings could do that. Though why they would is beyond me. Yeah, I agree. Royalty is weird. So the markets... Okay, we've got markets... not that long. So there are a number of public markets in the colonies, meaning you can get supplies easily. Of course, paying for goods is another matter, as currency was incredibly complex. People paid in English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese coins. Wampum, New Jersey and New York bills, magic beans, laundromat coins, the list goes on. We've simplified everything down for you in the Animus. You're welcome. So, what currency are we using? Are we using, like, pounds? Or dollars? Or gold? Well, some markets sold a variety of goods like Faneuil Hall in Boston, others were more specialized. New York's Coettes Slip was mainly a fish market, though like most markets it sold a little of everything. While you were in the market for African slaves, Peck's Slip was the place to go. Oh, that's terrible. Yes, slavery was legal at the time, though it was less common in Boston than New York, which had the largest slave population in the North. Don't be surprised to see European servants for sale. Either some were sold for a fixed number of years to pay back their passage to the New World, a much better deal than the slaves were offered. Yeah, that kind of sucks. It's good that that went away. Last for our locations, we have the Atlantic Ocean. Of course, crossing the Atlantic today is as easy as a plane ride, but it was much more difficult in colonial times, even though I imagine the tiny food and cramped conditions and likelihood of sitting next to a fat man for many hours were pretty much the same. For European travelers, it was at best a 6-week voyage, so a month and a half, but depending on delays it could last months. Dangers included storms and their opposite, being becalmed. Okay, I've never heard of that term. Seasickness, food running short, and dying of boredom because you had nothing to do all day. Oh, that sounds so terrible. For Africans captured into slavery, the Atlantic voyage was much worse. Across the Middle Passage, usually to the Caribbean, the journey was just as long, but slaves were kept below deck and rarely allowed into the fresh air. With the men usually in shackles, they were given only one meal a day, less if provisions ran low. Disease was rampant, and mortality rates were high. I will never complain about being inappropriately touched by an airport security again. Though to be fair, we're now firm friends, and Juan was very gentle. Okay, Sean seems to have regained his sense of humor. Let's go to items now. Ships and the Providence. So the Providence is the ship we traveled across the Atlantic on. The Providence was one of many sailing ships in the British Merchant Navy, which basically means it was a trading ship rather than one meant for war. You'll notice it's carrying cannons, but those are mainly for protection against pirates or privateer vessels, or for turning the ship into a privateer vessel should the need arise. The ship was built in 1748 and made several trips a year between Britain and North American colonies, with occasional visits to the West Indies. The manifest doesn't indicate anything particularly interesting. Mostly it carried staples like tea, molasses, and cloth. It was captained by its part owner, one Samuel Smith, who got something of a reputation among sailors for both cruelty to his crew and penny pinching on rations. Incidentally, that's not exactly the way to keep good sailors on board. The crew is probably both inexperienced and disgruntled. Ideally, you want an experienced crew who are hugely gruntled. Okay, although you likely don't know much about running an 18th century sailing vessel, odds are you won't notice the difference. Okay, good. So, events. What do we have for events? Other. We have the Beggar's Opera. Ah, that's the opera that we watched in the beginning, sort of. Alright, let's see. The Beggar's Opera opened in London in 1728. It's a musical, one of the earliest ever created. It was written by John Gay, a writer and friend of both Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift, two of the prominent literary figures of the day. The opera was both popular and controversial, partly because it was an excellent skewering of Italian opera, which was very popular at the time. However, instead of complicated Italian songs, the Beggar's Opera featured folk tunes that the audience could recognize, meaning you could hum along even if you didn't know Italian. It was controversial because of the subject matter. It's set in a Newgate prison, and the main characters are all criminals, who act much like the upper classes. It was send-up of the British nobility, including vile criticism of the head of government. Oh, so scandalous. Neither of whom traditionally have a sense of humor. I've never met a queen who liked a knock-knock joke. Actually, I've never met a queen. Me either. It's fine, Sean. The Beggar's Opera was accused of being a base form of entertainment, and because its main characters were criminals, accused of causing increases in crime, just like video games today. It's nice to see that criticism isn't just for movies and video games. Bloody opera corrupting our kids. Come on. Alright, so now we are on to our people. Do we have any groups? We have the British regulars. The British regulars were the foot soldiers of the British Army. You'll also hear them referred to derisively as redcoats, okay? Because of the redcoats they were wearing as part of their uniforms. I'll bet you didn't see that coming. Or lobsterbacks, because of their huge, deadly pincers. Or still because of their redcoat things. I can't remember which. The regulars in the colony were notoriously underpaid, and many looked for work outside of their army duties to meet ends meet. Of course, their room and board was paid by the government, meaning they could charge lower than average rates for their work. Since unemployment was high in Boston before the Revolution, you can imagine this made the redcoats rather unpopular among people they were taking work from. That and their huge deadly pincers. Alright, just a couple more here, and we'll be caught up. And, oh dear, we have Ezio and Altair. Sean. Okay, so we'll start with Charles Lee. Charles Lee was a British soldier who went on to be a major figure in the Revolutionary War. Lee's father was a colonel in the British Army and started his son off in a military career early. He was sent to a military academy in Switzerland during his formative years, and then in 1746 Lee became ensigned to his father's regiment. Lee was sent to the colonies in 1755 to fight in the French and Indian War. He served under Edward Braddock and then later at Fort Ticonderoga, where he was injured in the fighting. Lee recovered and later fought at Fort Niagara. I'd always thought there'd be a lot of fort fights fought. That's a tongue twister. Fort fights fought. He finished his time in the colonies with the British conquest of Montreal. Lee returned to England in 1760, possibly because he was seeking career advancement. He was named a major in 1761 and was sent to fight the Spanish in Portugal. Though his service record there was good, Lee didn't receive praise on his return home. In fact, he was retired from the army at half pay. After that, Lee became a vocal critic of military higher-ups and the British Prime Minister, and then found that his military career had inexplicably completely stalled. Yeah, so when you criticize people, they don't really tend to help you. So we've got Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was a renowned inventor, diplomat, and one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Translation, he was a rock star of the age. Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston in 1706, the 10th son of a soap maker. 10 sons. I guess his parents couldn't afford a television. And also, there was no television. He began working for his brother in 1718 as an apprentice printer. However, their relationship was rocky, particularly after the elder Franklin found out that younger Benjamin had been writing for the paper under a pseudonym, Silence Dogood, and writing an extreme popular content column at that. Human nature being what it is, the fact that the column was popular was probably the bigger problem. Benjamin ran away in 1723 and headed for Philadelphia, where he continued his career in printing and writing, eventually buying the Pennsylvania Gazette, the business, I mean, not just a copy. That would have been one of his lesser achievements. He stayed in Philadelphia for most of his life, that is, when he wasn't making extended trips to Europe. Franklin had a talent for persuasion, and that made him an ideal diplomat. In 1757, he went to London to represent Pennsylvania in an ongoing legal battle with the Penn family. It was the first of several extended political trips to Britain, and he would act as the state representative for Massachusetts, Georgia, and New Jersey as well. In fact, Franklin was in Europe for most of the Revolution, though he was in the colonies to help with the writing of the Declaration of Independence. Franklin was a vocal opponent of British impositions on the colonies, like the Stamp Act, and although he first fought for the rights of the colonists as a British citizen, he eventually became convinced, like many of the Founding Fathers, that independence was the only real solution. Unfortunately, Franklin's change of heart made him clash with his sons, William, who served as the royal governor of New Jersey. William remained an active loyalist. The father and son never spoke again. Oh, that's sad. When he wasn't founding a new nation and destroying his family in the process, Benjamin was a scientist, inventing things like bifocal and more efficient wood stoves. When he wasn't mapping the Gulf streams and discovering how electricity works, what have you done today? Made yourself a microwave meal and sat about in your underwear? Oh, well done, you. He was also a lady killer, this guy, carrying on several friendships with women while he was in Europe. The records don't say exactly what they saw in him, certainly not looks, maybe women like a man who's intelligent. If that's true, I wouldn't be here. I'd be in Portugal surrounded by them, and you'd be looking at a black screen. Okay, good to know, Sean. So, William Johnson. So this is the guy we met in the bar, the tavern. William Johnson was a land speculator and Britain's principal treaty negotiator with the indigenous people in the northern part of the colonies, particularly the Iroquois. Johnson was born in Ireland but moved to the colonies in 1738 to look after his uncle's property on the Mohawk River. However, it wasn't long before Johnson branched out into the business for himself, acquiring property on the opposite side of the river and setting up a sawmill and trading post, which he named Mount Johnson. I wonder why, which to me always sounds like mating instructions from a caveman. In 1743, he moved to an even larger parcel of land, which he named Fort Johnson. He may have been an excellent businessman, but it's possible he lacked an imagination. Johnson befriended the indigenous people of the area, particularly the, I apologize in advance for butchering this, Kahaka, whose language he learned. His respect for their customs helped him rise to prominence as liaison between the Iroquois people and the British government. Johnson named was named Superintendent of Indian Affairs in 1756 as a contact who knows the land and its people. He's probably the best you'll ever find. Perfect. Just who we need then. So, we have Reginald Birch, who was our friend from Britain. Reginald Birch was a London merchant and the son of another London merchant who, conveniently enough, also had the last name Birch, okay? It seemed it was one of those hard-to-put-your-finger-on things that ran in the family. Like being a merchant, Birch started in business for himself at an early age. By the time he was in his mid-20s, he already owned several merchant ships, mainly dealing with the tea trade to the American colonies. That's pretty good going, seeing as by the time most people are in their mid-20s, they don't even own a shirt. I can relate. I have him as part owner of the Providence, among others, so he partially owns the ship that we took the trip on. Later in life, Birch also owned several businesses in and around London. He was a member of White's, which was a posh gentleman's club in London, and generally a well-known and respectable man about town. From what I can tell, Birch met Haytham Kenway while working for his father, Edward. They were introduced at White's while Haytham was still quite young. Birch would eventually take over Haytham's education, tutoring him while on tour of Europe in the 1730s. From what we've seen in the Animus, it seems like their friendship continued into adulthood, with them working together as members of the Assassins. Alright, so we have Sean Hastings. Yeah, okay. So Sean Hastings is one of the few members of the Assassins who wasn't raised to join the Order. He was recruited as a teenager after his investigations into Abstergo Industries made him a target for Templars. Sean has a gift for organization, and as such the Assassins would be lost without him. His talents for making connection between historical events. He's widely regarded as the most intelligent person in the Order. Wow. And by widely recognized as the most intelligent person in the Order, I mean he is the most intelligent person in the Order. Okay, so you kind of sound arrogant here, Sean. You may think he's an arrogant bastard, but that's only because he's smarter than you and less like a less than able teenage girl. You find yourself not yet secure enough to move past your inherent and powerful feelings of joyless jealousy and simply appreciate me for who I am. What are you saying, Sean? Oh, good. You're actually reading this. I was beginning to wonder if I was wasting my time, because you know how much I love wasting my time. Now, make me some tea, would you? No tea for you, Sean. I will not make you tea. Wow, Ezio Auditore. We know who he is. Okay, so do I want to read this? Yeah, we might as well. Alright, Ezio Auditore da Firenze was a master assassin during the Italian Renaissance, as well as being an inheritor to the mysterious ability of eagle vision. We just completed 3 games about Ezio, so you better know who he is by now. Ezio was something of a playboy in his teenage years, but his life changed in 1476 when his father and brothers were arrested and executed for treason. Ezio tried to save them, but the evidence clearing their names mysteriously disappeared in the hands of a family friend. Instead, they were hanged as Ezio looked on. Ezio fled with his mother and sister to Monteriggione, where he sought refuge with his uncle, Mario Auditore. While Ezio had originally intended to continue on and settle in Spain, Mario had other ideas. He was the leader of the Italian Assassin Brotherhood and spent the next several years training Ezio and convincing him to help fight the Templars responsible for the deaths of his father and brothers. Ezio spent the next decade assassinating his way through the Templar ranks, eventually cornering the Grand Templar Grand Master Rodrigo Borgia in Venice in 1487. Borgia got away. He was let go. But Ezio was able to recover the Apple of Eden and was formally inducted into the Assassin Order. After several setbacks over the next few years, Ezio traveled to Rome in 1499 to confront Rigo Rodrigo, who by then had become Pope Alexander VI. After defeating Rodrigo, but again sparing his life, Ezio opened a hidden vault under the Sistine Chapel where he discovered a message left by the first civilization, warning of a catastrophe that would threaten to wipe out humanity. Yes, that would be the one we're facing now. So over the next 20 years or so, Ezio worked at strengthening the Italian Assassin Brotherhood and fighting the Templars, which is sort of what we do. One of the greatest accomplishments would be discovering a hidden library belonging to Altair under the former assassin stronghold at Masyaf, containing another message from the first civilization. He retired from the Brotherhood shortly thereafter, which was what we call ending on a high note. He was terrific at jumping, too. Yes, Ezio died in Florence in 1524. And for the view of that, as well as his meeting with Xiao Jun, the Chinese assassin, you can watch Assassin's Creed Embers. You can find it on YouTube. So, Altair ibn La'ahad. So, Altair was born into the Assassin Brotherhood in its stronghold of Masyaf. His early life wasn't a happy one. His mother died during childbirth. Then when he was a young boy, his father was killed during the first siege of Masyaf. Only shortly thereafter, the assassin he died to save committed suicide in front of the 11-year-old Altair. With his parents gone, Altair looked to Al-Mualim, the then mentor of the order. As a father figure, Al-Mualim recognized Altair's potential and took on his training personally. Altair reached the rank of Master Assassin by the age of 25, an unheard-of accomplishment. If there was an assassin book of records, there'd probably be a picture of this fellow on the front. Altair was one of the best fighters in assassin history, with an arrogance to match. After a disastrous mission in 1191, in which he broke the creed and very nearly let the Apple of Eden fall into Templars' hands, Altair was sent back down to novice rank and forced to begin again. As part of his rehabilitation, he was responsible for taking out the major players in the Templar Order at the time, including the Grand Master Robert de Sable. Tragically, in the end, he was also forced to kill Al-Mualim, who turned out to be both a Templar and corrupted by the influence of the Apple. After his mentor's death, Altair took control of the Order, turning it into the secret and world-spanning organization it is today. One of the things that made Altair such a deadly assassin was something we now call eagle vision, a kind of sixth sense inherited from the first civilization. It allowed him to read his enemies and surrounding in a way that goes beyond what the human eye can see. Of course, you'll know more about that than me. I can't believe I just typed that. Because it's in your blood, and that's part of why you're here. Well, let's be honest. You knew you weren't here because of my enduring affection or my warm and passionate cuddles. I hope you are not cuddling me, Sean. That is sort of weird. Alright, so we have read all of our items. I can't believe how long that took. And, well, I guess we will... Oh, we have Thomas Hickey, which I didn't read. We have one more... Why are there so many? View the logbook? No, it's not the logbook. How do I get back here? I forgot about Thomas Hickey. Database. Recent. Thomas Hickey. So he is the random person here. Thomas Hickey was an Irish-born member of the British Army. He arrived in Boston in 1752. But it wasn't long before he was assigned to William Johnson's personal guard, apparently at Johnson's request, possibly because their families were connected in Ireland, or maybe he found the name Hickey funny. The records aren't clear. Hickey served under Johnson during the French and Indian War, but then he left the army after being written up several times for disorderly conduct. In 1760, Hickey disappeared from the history records for several years. I do, however, have several mentions of William Johnson's household account of payments made to a T.H. Possibly Hickey was working for him as a spy. If so, he should really have developed some tougher codes to crack. I agree. TH, come on, Thomas Hickey, kind of self-explanatory, but then maybe back then it wasn't as, wasn't as necessary to keep things secret. Maybe they didn't think anyone would be looking at the books. Let's talk to Mr. Johnson here.
Tell me about yourself, William.
What's to tell? I was born in Ireland to Catholic parents, which I learnt early in life severely limited my opportunities. So I converted to Protestantism and journeyed here at the behest of my uncle. But I fear my uncle Peter was not the swiftest of men. He sought to open trade with the Conyan Gahaga, but chose to build his settlement away from the trade routes instead of on them. I tried to reason with the man, but, as I said, not the swiftest. So, I took what little money I'd earned and bought my own little plot of land. I built a home, a farm, a store, and a mill. Humble beginnings, but well situated, which made all the difference.
So this is how you came to know the Mohawk?
Indeed, and it has proved a valuable relationship.
But still no mention from your contacts of the precursor site? No hidden temple or ancient constructs?
Yes and no. Which is to say, they have their fair share of sacred sites. Earthen mounds, forest clearings, hidden caves. But nothing matching what you describe. No strange metals. No odd glows.
It is well hidden.
Even to them, it seems. But cheer up, my friend. You'll have your precursor treasure. I swear it.
To our success, then.
And soon.
Yes. Success. Okay. I feel like we haven't really accomplished too much here. Because we spent the whole time reading the thing. But I suppose that's... You gotta do it at the beginning of the game, because you don't want to enter the... interrupt the stuff. Oh, it's really cool that they have actual... figures walking around outside in the streets. That's a nice touch, Ubisoft. Alright. So, I think I'm actually going to end it right here. And next time when we return, we shall begin this mission here. Where's the mission? Maybe it's outside? I don't want to interact just in case this is the mission. But I think it might be outside. So yes, we will begin the mission. We will find the bandits, and I believe we are going to meet Thomas Hickey. And yeah, we'll continue this adventure, and we will find ourselves the precursor site and the treasure within. Thank you all so much for watching. My name's Xeriua, and this is the Nocturnal Gaming Network, bringing you Assassin's Creed 3. Have yourselves a wonderful night, everybody.